Hello, everyone, and welcome to MARE Day. This is a celebration of MARE's 19 years of ocean exploration. We are very excited to have you here and to join us in celebrating our 19 years and learning about MARE's recent expeditions and what's coming into the future. Tonight, we have some guest speakers that are going to talk about our partner projects in Costa Rica and the British Virgin Islands. We will also be premiering video from our recent expeditions here in California and Hawaii, and you're going to get the chance to see never before seen footage. In addition to our program, which will end with a live auction of an experience to cruise on the bay in MARE's own research vessel, the Tomcat. We also have a silent auction. Greta, if you can pull up the silent auction for us. Many of you have already bid on items, and we just want to share some of these unique experiences that we have. You can bid on these through the GiveSmart page on the left-hand side. I believe you will see a link to our items. We've got dragon boat cruise on the bay, art, photography, surf lessons, warriors, a signed Warriors jersey, which is a hot item right now, and an surf photo shoot. Please have a look at the silent auction items. All of these donations help support MARE's work. We're going to be telling you more about it, but we can't do this work without you. So we're very excited to have you all here, and I am going to pass this on to John. One more thing though before I do, which is in order to bid and participate tonight, you must register through the GiveSmart page. So please make sure that you've done that. And I just want to thank everyone who is here and who has donated to the silent auction. Again, this is why we're here tonight, is to celebrate and to support MARE's research. John, if you want to turn your camera on. John is John Glassman. I'm excited to be here tonight with John, who is the president of our board of directors. And here you go, John.
Awesome. Thank you, Natasha. Hi, everybody, and thank you for attending. So my name is John Glassman, and I'm proud to be here representing MARE's volunteer board of directors. I want to share just a little bit about why I'm here. I believe that our ocean is a treasure that we all share and that it deserves to be protected. I believe that the most important way to protect our ocean is rational public policy. And I believe that sound policy must be based on science and data. But there's a big difference between believing in something and actually changing the world. And the difference is action. I'm inspired by this team at MARE because they are doing it. They're getting up every day. They're getting out on the water, and they're getting down to the bottom of it all in pursuit of their mission. And they've been doing it for almost 2 decades. MARE has been shining light where it has never shone before, and they've illuminated the importance of protecting our ocean. Since MARE was founded, they've documented over 2,700 kilometers of seafloor. And I think that this number should actually jump out at you for 2 reasons. First of all, it's a huge number. So running over the seafloor at just a couple knots, carefully collecting all the best imagery possible, and then painstakingly converting that to high quality data and insights about the ocean. It's an incredible feat. But second of all, that number is tiny. The vast majority of our ocean remains completely unexplored, and there's so much more that we need to do. Thankfully, MARE is devoted to expanding its impact, both here within California, but also beyond. And just in the last couple of years, during a global pandemic, MARE has managed to expand to new shores in Costa Rica, Hawaii, the British Virgin Islands, and more, and has proven out the value of new technology such as the Batfish glider, which can cover ground faster than ever before. I'm really honored to introduce our next speaker. He started this journey in 2003, and for 19 years, he has given his all to MARE and its mission. And like the rest of the MARE team, he's been out there doing it, changing the world for the better. He's an inspiration to me, and I think to many of you. And I chose to join MARE's board because of his leadership and his example. I'm very proud to introduce the person who started it all, MARE's president, Dirk Rosen.
Wow, John, you make me blush. Thank you for being here. We have a great lineup today. And as John said, we really founded MARE to get the deep water data that was missing. There's a big void in information below scuba depths. And yet in California, at least, that's where the biomass is. That's where the human impacts are. And we knew so little about it, we weren't able to properly steward it. So we built a number of remotely operated vehicles, given my background and some good friends' background. And then we started deploying them in California, really as our petri dish, to start tracking change over time from this incredible concept called marine reserves or marine protected areas, where limited or no fishing is allowed at all. And to highlight that, I'm going to introduce one of our marine biologists, Greta Goshorn, who has compiled some highlights from the marine reserves from the very northern portion of California up near Crescent City all the way down to San Diego. And you'll see a variety of different water clarities, animals, and so forth. But Greta is part of the core team that IDs all the species, not just fish, but also invertebrates, and classifies habitat. And then we have a giant database that we use to do our assessments and to relate everything together in a relationship, a relational database. So take it away, Greta.
Hi, I'm Greta, and I'm going to take you on a deep dive into California's MPAs today. So come along and let's Hi, I'm Greta, and I'm going to take you on a deep dive into California's MPAs today. So come along and let's go see what's down there. This is what our remotely operated vehicle, or ROV, sees when we're underwater. It allows us to collect and record data that we take back for analysis later. On the left, we're able to see what depth we're recording at. On the right, the temperature of the water that we're in. In the middle, we're able to see the direction that the ROV is going, and the range just to the left of the direction helps us calculate the total area that we survey when we're doing analysis. California's MPAs are a host to a multitude of exquisite species like this California hydrocoral. This species goes from pink to purple and brings divers and photographers from all over the world to enjoy its splendor. It's just at the bottom of scuba depth, so you can just get there. It's a host to so many species and is a great nursery habitat, looking at all these nooks and crannies for all of these species to start really small and be able to grow bigger. California's MPAs are host to not only a bunch of really wonderful, charismatic species like this giant Pacific octopus, but it also helps support a lot of commercial and recreational fisheries along the coast, like rockfish and market squid. Rockfish is one of the prime fisheries along the coast. It's something that if you're a Californian, you've probably eaten rockfish in the last year, if you eat fish. And then market squid is one of our most sustainable and lucrative fisheries along the California coast. Being able to look into the MPAs allows us to kind of keep tabs on those fisheries and to see how effectively they're being managed over time. Our MPAs also allow us this lens into a world that's beyond scuba depth. Without vehicles like this, we wouldn't necessarily be able to see the things that are down here, to see these species in their natural habitats, and be able to record it and bring it back to you. If you look at where we're taking a lot of these videos, it might be just offshore of your home, and you being able to see what's out there is one of the best ways that we could ever gain advocates for the ocean, because what you see is what you love and then what you eventually want to protect. So I bet there's something in here. I hope there's something in here that you look at and you think that is absolutely beautiful, and I want to make sure that that always has a place. This is a threatened species that's been threatened since the 70s, and we are able to go and look at them year after year after year and see how effectively they're bouncing back. Looking at these grumpy little wolf eels, you might think they were not so happy right now, but if they knew how many people were stoked to be seeing this video about them, I know they'd be happy, and I know they'd hope that you would go and advocate for their environment for them as well. If you know anything of internet fame, you've probably heard of a mantis shrimp. This guy has a punch far beyond its size, and it is so cool that we're able to record videos like this and use that to bring it back to you, to show you what is out there so that you can go out and love your ocean, love your MPAs as much as possible. Thank you for your time. Have a good day.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Greta. That was a glimpse into our California MPAs. And now I'm going to bring on Dirk to take us across the Pacific. Dirk, if you want to put your camera on, and we can introduce our next video, which will be about Hawaii.
Okay, so this was our Batfish robotic vehicle's first deployment, which was last year actually, but we learned how to fly it over coral reefs, sometimes very rugged ones, and that helped us greatly when we went down and surveyed in the British Virgin Islands. So let's roll that one.
Okay.
Aloha and welcome to our Hawaii expedition. Thanks to your generous support and that of several funders, we were able to support the state of Hawaii in their bold conservation initiative to conserve 30% of their nearshore waters by 2030. We teamed with NOAA, the state of Hawaii, and the University of Hawaii, deploying our Batfish remotely operated vehicle for the first time.
Where you'll have a different group of grasses and so forth running around. And then you've got some dead coral here. And then you've got some more over here. You've got those crown tobies. We go down another half an hour.
We saw healthy reefs. We saw areas of large fish abundance worthy of protection. And we saw other areas of the reefs that are struggling with a few invasive species and places that need to regenerate. In all, it was a success for all of us, working together to document a baseline of current conditions.
Welcome back from Hawaii. Thank you, Dirk, for taking us on that Hawaii journey. And Dirk, if you can come back on, we're going to keep moving through our program here and now headed to Costa Rica.
Yes, I'd like to introduce Randall. He's a Costa Rican sea turtle and shark biologist known for his effective activism regionally and globally. And Randall, you told me this on a ship that you were studying sea turtles, but then the sharks came in and started eating your research subject. So then you decided, well, maybe I should study sharks too. And so what ended up transpiring is, well, studying the impact of longline industry, fishing industry on sea turtles, you noticed that shark finning was an issue, and you've obtained some of the first known video evidence of this horrific act and launched an ongoing campaign that has put Costa Rica under the spotlight of the global shark finning issue. He's also authored and co-authored over 70 peer-reviewed publications and has been acknowledged for his work by the Whitney Fund, the Goldman Prize, and he's a Pew Marine Fellow. So Randall, I can't wait to hear what you've got.
Okay, well, I'm gonna time this because I'm gonna have to go really fast. Make sure I got it. Okay, well, thank you for the introduction, Dirk, and thank you everybody for being here with me today. I'm going to show you, just a minute. Okay. Oops. Okay. 10 minutes starts now. Okay, so I'll talk to you about the work I'm doing, regarding the association of threatened sharks, mainly hammerheads, but a whole array of threatened sharks, to the seamounts between the Cocos Galapagos Swimway. And, working with Srinalawini, we have to remember it's a critically endangered species. That means that if the current trend continues, which we haven't been able to change over 30 years, this species could be extinct within the next 20 years. And one problem is that it has a very complex lifestyle. It reproduces in the mangrove swamps and coastal waters. It goes out to oceanic waters. And we see these aggregations of sharks at the seamounts. And then we always ask ourselves, these seamounts, like in Cocos Island, Galapagos, Malpelo, Colombia, are these the same sharks moving back and forth? And that's important to know because we're going to need this information if we want to come up with efficient conservation or management policies. So what is the best conservation strategy? We have to figure that out. So we do different types of research. We have telemetry, we poke animals with pole spears and we insert tags into them. We also catch them and do surgeries. We also do genetic analysis. And now we're also going into the stable isotope research. But this is our favorite type of research. We use these acoustic tags and we insert them with pole spears into the sharks, but then it's an acoustic tag. So you need a listening station. So that receptor up there listens to the tag or the animal when it swims within a 300-meter range around it. And here we are also inserting a tag inside an animal through a surgery. And then what we have to do is every 6 or 8 months, go to Cocos Island and pick up our receivers that are, what we call these listening stations, pick up our receivers that are moored on these ropes. So we have 7 of these receivers around Cocos Island. And from July to 2005, since we did our first expedition, to August 21, we've done 51 expeditions and we've tagged 320 hammerhead sharks. There's a hammerhead with a tag in it. And one of the first things that we've discovered, this was a very early finding, is that some of the sharks tagged in Cocos were going to Galapagos and vice versa. And they were doing this 693 travel in only 15 days or 23 days, meaning they were going in a directed movement, pretty much in a straight line. And as you can see, there's the ridge there, which is the Cocos Ridge. That's a submerged mountain range. Cocos and Darwin and Wolf, or the Galapagos Islands, are just the summits of these mountain chains, these underwater mountain chains. Then we started finding out that these animals were moving around from one island to another, but we had very low inter-island movements. Only, less like than 5 or 7% of the animals that we were tagging were being found at the other sites. Lots of the animals would disappear, then show up again, but we weren't detecting them at the other islands. So that was kind of like, where are they going? Now, this is kind of like what it looks like right now. Up in the right left corner is Cocos Island, the circle. That rectangle is a protected area that used to exist. Down on the other corner, we have Galapagos. And in between, we can see all the seamounts. And we can see that seamount up there, West Cocos and Paramount Seamount, which are, the seamounts that we're interested in, just like the Gemelas and Gemelas 2. Well, what we discovered was we deployed some of these receivers in Las Gemelas. And what we found out was that the sharks were doing back and forth movements between Cocos and Las Gemelas. They weren't going from Cocos to Galapagos unidirectionally, like a highway, like we used to assume, but they were going back and forth to Gemelas, like Gemelas was a station or a step and a stepping stone. And then this is research from the University of Costa Rica. They've been deploying the cameras, and they discovered that West Cocos and Paramount seamounts are the ones with the highest abundance and richness of large pelagic species. So they've studied the abundance of these species throughout all these seamounts, and West Cocos and Paramount are definitely the most important. So what we're thinking now is, if the animals we tag in Gemelas and in Cocos Island, if they're doing that back and forth movement, which we already confirmed, And it's already confirmed that they're doing that back and forth movement in Galapagos as well. They called that a hotspot and a hotspot. Well, let's look at let's look at that Seamount West Cocos. Could the sharks be doing that kind of movement? And if they're moving also towards the to Paramount, we could be expecting, since these two spots are the ones with the highest aggregations and richness, we could perfectly hypothesize that the animals are moving back and forth along these stepping stones, and these are the most important stepping stones. These are the ones we have to protect. This is a proposal by Migramar, a coalition of researchers I work with, and we're suggesting that this is the Migravia, or the swimway. Those circles are the summits of the seamounts, the most important ones. We suggest there has to be a 40-mile no-take radius around them, and this whole swimway should be no-take, because all these seamounts are just as important. We can protect the ends of these or certain of these seamounts, but we have to protect all of them, because that's the swimway. Unfortunately, Costa Rica just now did their expansion of the marine protected areas in the Eastern Tropical Pacific together with Ecuador. And you can see there, those red spots are the areas you can't fish in. So in Costa Rica, you have Cocos Island National Park, which is now 54,000 square kilometers. And you can see that West Cocos is fully protected. Yay. But then we look at Ecuador, and we can see that Ecuador's swimway is heading like towards the middle of the economic zone of Costa Rica, completely skipping Paramount. And then Costa Rica, in our rectangle, we don't have a management plan yet. And over the next 4 years, we have to design a plan on where you can fish and where you can't fish here. And one of the first things we think that has to be done is that rectangle has to be fixed so that it fits more the swimway. We have the science to know that this design is not the most efficient one. And that's why we need MARE now. We need to improve our science. We need to have better information so that over the next few years, now that Costa Rica has a new president, we can fix this situation and come up with a real swimway that will efficiently protect these species. So our mission now is to deploy 4 acoustic receivers at 180 meters of depth in Las Gemelas and 2 in West Cocos. Also, I've lost 2 receivers trying to do this in the past. So I also asked Dirk if it would be possible to go there and look for my lost receivers, because any information on those receivers is definitely going to be extremely valuable. And this is the drone where, we were testing these drones in Cocos Island last year. Here's Dirk teaching one of my colleagues. And the idea is to use these drones to go down to deploy the receivers and to look for my lost ones. Now, this is a challenge because these receivers are 180 meters deep. And I'm going to show you a video of the work we did back in May of 2015, so you can see what we're up to. This was on board a boat called the Olusia, and they provided the submarines to do this work too. That was fantastic. Of course, these are manned submarines. This is only 2 minutes, so here we are going down. And now you're going to see why it's so important to use a submersible, because when we're up on the surface, we drop the anchor with a rope and we can feel when the anchor hits the summit of the seamount. But then how do we detach the rope from the anchor? And then we need to make sure that the acoustic receiver is right on the summit, because if it isn't, it's not going to be able to listen. And you're going to see now we deployed the receiver from the surface. There it is. But it's right next to a stone wall. So it's going to miss 50% of its listening capacity. Not good. So I was trying to convince the submarine pilot to move the receiver with the mechanical arm so we could deploy it on the summit, because the summit it's only like 15 meters higher. Okay, so first what they're doing right now is they're detaching the rope that's attached to the surface, the tether. So that's one thing that our MARES operation would have to do. So marine folks know how to make these cool knots. They're slip knots, easy to detach. So there you go. So now the receiver is free. And for a moment, the pilot, said we couldn't be able to do it, but I persuaded him, like, come on, man, let's try to do it. And since the anchor was wedged in those rocks, it didn't look like it was going to work, but it did. Now the batteries from these receivers last about 2 years or 18 months. And you send an acoustic signal to the receiver and it pops up. It has a float. And that way you don't have to go down to pick up the receiver like we do when we dive cocos. Of course, we dive cocos, that's 30 meters. This is 180, so you can't dive it. And so with the acoustic receiver, with the acoustic signal, you just tell the receiver to detach. Unfortunately, we went too late. And it seems like in one case, the batteries had drained. And in the other case, we just couldn't communicate with the receiver. So, over the years, we've deployed 4 receivers at the site. We've recovered 2 with, critically important information, kind of like whatever we get on these receivers is going to be, important. So, we want to deploy 4 receivers now. We want to deploy the first 2 receivers in West Cocos, and then we want to deploy 2 more in Gemelas, and we want to find the 2 lost receivers. So this could be a great big jackpot if we can pull it off. So thank you. And there you go.
So this is where we open it up to Q&A. And I have a question for you, Randall, to kick us off. Because you've been so effective in influencing policy, which you said was the most critical piece at the outset, what are some of your methods for doing that? How do you convince a politician who just wants to get reelected?
Well, that's when the campaigns kick in. Politicians respond to votes, right? So if we can land a petition on a politician's desk, especially if he's wanting to be elected, and if we can land 100,000 or 150,000 petitions on his desk, that nudges him, that makes him listen to us. And especially in our campaigns, we usually get the massive letters sending around, but then we also like to send out scientist letters. And then we just get a bunch of scientists to sign a letter. So it's signed by a bunch of PhDs, universities, scientific organizations, just to give it more weight. But, getting to the politicians is usually why we do the public campaigns, to get the public moving, get the public opinion going. And then, the politicians just have to pay attention.
That makes sense. And then do you translate the data to, I don't want to say dumb it down, but just make it more digestible and compelling? I mean, is that, does logic work?
Sure, of course. And I get a lot of help with that, especially nowadays with all the social media and everything. I'm still used to doing the old press releases and sending out a fax or whatever. And, every now and then I have a press release to do. And, I try to distribute it on Instagram or whatever. And my 30-year-old kid is like, Dad, no one's going to look at that. You need a really cool picture, and he's helping me with these communications because, it's definitely changed. But he helps me, if you check some of our, some of the information we've been putting out, graphs that will move and show you how many sharks are being killed, but not just a number, but it's a graph that's interactive and it moves around. And so he helps me with those type of communications because, you got to know your social media nowadays, because if you don't, it's going to be really hard to get out there, especially the younger generations, but now pretty much everybody.
Yeah, and they're the ones who are going to take over for us. So do you have some colleagues that are younger than you, I noticed?
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. All my colleagues and they're, well, you met Jeffrey. Jeffrey's in his 40s. My son, who's also my colleague, works with me and he's in his young 30s. And we get a lot of interns and people working on their degrees. And what I like to do is I like to facilitate. I'm until recently I didn't have a high enough degree to be a tutor. So what I would do is we would facilitate, like provide access to boats or access to fishermen, access to data, so that kids who are working on their dissertations could have an opportunity. And we've done that quite a bit.
Hi, Randall. We had one more question from Kelly about what's one thing that the public can do to support shark and turtle protection. How can the public make a difference?
Okay, well, in your everyday choices, for instance, I recently saw it. Now there's dog and cat food with shark. Also, if you like to eat fish, make sure you're not getting sold shark. and just making, intelligent choices when you're eating seafood, especially. Lots of people I know have stopped eating seafood because it's so hard to make that, to find the right choice. I, at least I'm pretty lucky because I work with small scale fishermen. So I never buy my fish in the supermarket, but, I prefer to buy my fish when I know exactly who bought it, and then who caught it. But that's not always possible, so you have certifications or whatever. So just try to be more aware, like when you're in restaurants, what you're eating, what it took to catch it. That's one way, one very important way. Another way is, for instance, help me in my campaigns. Costa Rica is supposed to be the global leaders. Whenever you say Costa Rica is, the blue nation, the conservation nation, the national park nation, ecotourism nation. But, it may be true. When it comes to the land, Costa Rica may be green. But when it comes to the ocean, we're not. And that's important because countries follow Costa Rica. Costa Rica can go to these international forums and Costa Rica can push for change, and other countries will follow because it's Costa Rica. So we really need to get Costa Rica bluer. We really need to put the pressure on Costa Rica because we need Costa Rica to lead the processes. There are several processes coming up. So just follow me up on my campaigns and see what we're up to. And yeah, let's make sure these countries are accountable and that they respect the commitments that they've made.
Thank you so much, Randall.
Yeah.
I think it's, yes, important to support Randall's work and of course, support MARE so that we can continue working with Randall to get this important information and continue this research. We're going to be moving right along here. Thank you, Randall.
You're welcome, and thank you everybody for your attention. That was nice. And thanks, Dirk. And we'll see you. We'll see each other soon in the depths.
You can turn your camera off, Randall.
Oh, yeah.
And
okay.
We're going to be moving on to the British Virgin Islands. We're going to show a short video to get us started. And once that video is done, we'll bring Dirk back on. So I think we're ready for the video. Thank you. That was a short video about our project in the British Virgin Island. I just want to do a shout out to everyone who's been continuing to donate through our presentations. The thermometer is rising and we appreciate all of your donations. Keep bidding on those auction items. We still have about an hour. And now we're going to go on to a little bit more about the research in the British Virgin Islands. If Dirk can join us, here we go. Thank you guys. And don't forget to unmute.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Like working with Randall, I worked with another stellar organization in the British Virgin Islands, and I'm going to start with Laura, ladies first, right? So Laura knows these reefs like the back of her hand. She put us on these incredible corals and the front line of the coral disease that she and Chris are fighting. And she was able to do it with passion, charisma, and a solid science background. So Laura holds a degree in oceanography from Southampton University in the UK. And she's been working in the Virgin Islands and in marine science for the past 14 years, even though she doesn't look it. I think she must have started when she was 10. And actually, she grew up in a dive shop, which I came to find out aboard boat, kind of diving with lots of macho guys. And that's maybe why she's so competent. She runs or spearheads the efforts with Beyond the Reef to treat stony coral tissue loss disease. And she's going to talk about that with us now.
Brilliant. Thank you, Dirk. Thank you for that lovely introduction. And wow, that was an awesome video. Thank you, MARE team. That took me back to a year ago when you guys visited us. Guys, thank you very much for inviting us Beyond the Reef to come along this evening. It really is amazing to be a part of what you guys do. I'm just going to start sharing my screen, and I'm going to take you guys through a brief presentation. So, as Dirk said, my name's Laura. I'm part of the Beyond the Reef team based down in the British Virgin Islands. So Beyond the Reef, we're a BVI-based non-profit, started back in 2018. The team is very diverse. We consist of commercial divers, film producer, and an oceanographer. It makes for some really fun planning sessions with some very novel ideas coming up along the way. One of our first projects was to take a shipwreck or a floating bar restaurant, sorry, that was damaged during hurricanes and turn it into a dive site / artificial reef. And that's the one down there in the bottom left, called the Willie T, and turned into a pirate theme with lots of skeletons, a couple of guys having a sword fight. You can see the guy there scrubbing the deck. So everything we try and has an element of fun to it, as well as trying to help the marine environment. A whole ton of other projects, which I'd encourage you to take a look at our website. We've got tons of really great videos and photos, as well as more information. But for now, stony coral tissue loss disease, which, as Dirk said, is the one that I mostly head up. So this is a fast-spreading bacterial disease that is affecting over 20 of our hard coral, our stony coral species. Believed to have started up in Florida in 2014, it is now slowly spread its way throughout the Caribbean. Some of the problems with tackling it is that the exact bacteria and the exact transmission methods are still not a lot is known about them. So it makes it really difficult for intervention strategies. The BVI had its first sighting back in early 2020. It has now spread throughout the entire BVI region. When MARE came to visit us a year ago, though, and we still did have some areas that weren't infected. We saw some areas where the disease hadn't been seen on. Compared to a lot of other coral diseases, it does spread very fast, and it generally produces 100% mortality once a coral gets infected. So it makes it really important to tackle the disease when a coral breaks out with it early. The stony corals are our primary building blocks for our reef structure. Without them, we lose a huge part of our marine environment, coastal defense, tourism, just overall lower, poorer reef health. Because they're slow growing, it's very likely the effects of losing these corals in such vast numbers won't be noticed straight away because they're slow growing. So early and successful intervention is key to tackling it. So a few of the things that we're doing to tackle the disease is regular monitoring. So heading out on a weekly basis, diving sites, and keeping an eye on the progress and the severity of different diseases. We've actually partnered with the local BVI government, the Ministry of Natural Resources, Labour and Immigration, local dive operators, other nonprofits, as well as a whole army of volunteers to help us tackle this. We found that keeping an eye out for new outbreaks is the key to success. There's a specially bioengineered paste or compound which can be applied to corals which break out in the disease. And this helps, this specially bioengineered paste sticks to the coral and slowly releases an antibiotic powder that's mixed in and will stop the spread of that disease. Although the corals will never grow back from it, it does mean the healthy part of the colony is saved. We've also longer term are looking at coral rescue for key colonies, key species. These would be housed hopefully in a nursery environment. And then as the disease is either a cure is found or the worst of it passes through, we would then be able to take these corals and be able to outplant them back onto reef areas that have been severely impacted. So the MARE team came to us in July 2021 to do some rapid coral assessments at multiple locations throughout the BVI. They brought along that batfish, the towed survey vehicle that was piloted by the lovely Dirk, one of the MARE team mostly, and it was deployed off of our 31-foot safe boat. All the time the batfish was being deployed, we were recording video the whole time. We chose key areas around the BVI that had different outbreaks of the disease. So some where it had been initially seen versus areas where the disease had just been broken out. And we wanted to compare the results that we found. Our key objectives as well were to identify reef areas that hadn't yet had the disease. This really helps our divers team target and go back with treatment, with monitoring efforts, and also trying to identify areas of reef that had a high abundance of the corals that are slowly becoming rarer. Again, helps us to kind of get in there with the intervention strategies early. We discovered one of the main reasons that we wanted to use the batfish was that it could cover much larger areas of reef system. So just dive teams going out, even though we were diving regularly every week, it just wasn't enough to be able to cover the area we needed to cover, particularly for the new outbreaks of disease. The batfish really did make a big difference in us being able to cover the front line as the disease was moving through the BVI. Here's some fun photos from what we did. So you can see there on the left, this is the batfish being deployed over the side of the boat. We had about a team of 3 or 4 on board the boat most days for doing that. Down in the bottom right, you can see Dirk piloting, and we had a live video stream whilst we were underway. And the top right is just a photo of the typical thing we were seeing. Some of the results. So in a very short space of time, just 5 survey days on the water, we achieved a lot and had a really good time whilst we were doing it. 8 locations, nearly 46 kilometers, 29 video transects, 6 different islands. We really did cover a lot of distance, some good days, as I said. Depth range generally for our coral reefs in the BVI is between 0 and 30 meters, which was majority of our surveys. But we did also have a few occasional dips down to 80 meters. A lot of those were the pre-invasion zones where the disease hadn't yet been seen. And we were also just testing the limits of the batfish a little bit, having a bit of fun. Some other critters that we saw along the way, we did at some point have a couple of sharks and turtles swim through the video, which was cool to see. All those video transects and all that video footage that was collected was then taken back by the MARE team to California. They processed it and produced a really awesome report with the findings. It included seabed classifications, different coral coverage, as well as a few of the key things we'd noted. So all the time the live stream was going along, there was a timestamp in the top right corner. And if we saw anything of interest or note, we could make a note of that timestamp, and we could then go back to that exact location using the GPS and ground truth it or dive it, or like we said, identify it as one of our key sites. Future projects with MARE, which I'm very much looking forward to the team coming back to see us sometime soon. It would be amazing for them to come back and do some repeat surveys in the same areas. Now that the disease has been prevalent for a few years, it'll be really interesting to see how coral coverage might have changed at a few of those key sites. As a ground truthing method for remote sensing. So remote sensing is becoming a really popular way of producing habitat maps these days, but they still need ground truthing and verification. The batfish, again, being able to cover those large areas would be a great use of that. And by accident, we discovered that the batfish also assists with one of our other Beyond the Reef's key passions, which is tackling lost or abandoned fishing gear, nets and pots. Whilst we were towing the batfish along, we did become a couple of times entangled. Some skillful driving from both our boat driver, Chris, and our batfish pilot, Dirk, meant that most of the time we were able to break ourselves free from these derelict pots that we became trapped with. Other times the diver did have to jump in and do a little bit of untangling. That's all I've got for now.
Thanks, Laura. And I want to introduce now Chris. He's an incredible waterman, and I mean that with as the highest compliment I can give somebody. So incredibly competent, along with his fellow South African Mark Doig. One day when batfish got entangled down at 100 feet, Mark said, well, I'll just free dive down and cut it loose, which he did, but then he stopped to pause to smile into the camera. Basically, he's snorkeling down there. But Chris not only drove the boat, knew the reefs, he's also a commercial diver. He's done bathymetric surveys, pipeline installations, underwater welding. He's just a Renaissance man, and his passion for the environment is boundless. He started not only commercial dive services, but also a Weeby Dive and Scuba company, and then Beyond the Reef with Laura, trying to protect his beloved ocean. So Chris, I hope you'll say a few words.
Hey, good evening, thanks. I don't have too much to say. Laura kind of said it all in a nutshell. Super grateful, stoked for your time. Thank everyone for being here tonight. And yeah, just being part of MARE and the expedition we did in August was amazing. I know Mark, yeah, Mark is a super waterman. The guy goes down, and I think Laura will tell you, and Kendall, they'll attest to it, that they call emergency services because Mark goes missing. He's down there for minutes. And recently we were just in Dominica doing a freediving school course, and they were like, there's a crazy guy called Mark Doig, and he did like, it was 200 plus feet 3 times in one day. He did, you know, whatever, crazy waterman. So stoked he's part of our team. And yeah, we just, I think our goal long-term is just to collaborate with people like MARE and move forward on projects where we can actually have an impact, where we can change things, and where we can actually see something that's positive. It's not just something that, you know, you put out there, but you actually have a result from it. So working with MARE was, it was great. The batfish for me was like huge. Having seen that batfish work, and I didn't get to pilot it. I think Mark did, and I got to watch you guys pilot it, but I'm obsessed with it. It's got so many uses for me. The more we surveyed and the more I saw it working, the more I could just see like how it could fit into stony coral tissue loss. It can fit into shark research, ghost pot, ghost nets. It's like, it covers so many fields, and every one of them kind of rolls over into the other. And if we can find a way to collaborate and do something, I'm so excited. Like going forward, 2022, 23, let's hope that we can put something together and really good project, get it off the ground.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Laura. I'm very excited to continue our work in the British Virgin Islands. And now we are going to be moving on to our kind of finale here. Thank you all for hanging in through those inspiring presentations. The reason why we are here today is to support MARE's work. And in addition to our projects in California, Hawaii, the British Virgin Islands, and everything that's coming, we can't do this work without you. We can't. We want. We hope to inspire you in the work that we're doing to collect this really important information. In order to protect and manage our oceans, we need to be able to see it, and MARE provides those tools. You guys are doing an amazing job here on the silent auction. Just want to show you where we're at. Donations are still coming in, and we really appreciate every dollar counts, so that we can continue to do this important work. I'd like to introduce Kelly, one of our board members who has been instrumental in making this event happen. And Kelly, would please introduce yourself.
Oh, sure, Natasha. Thank you so much. Well, what an exciting hour. So it's been, you know, to go from California to Hawaii, you know, to Costa Rica and all the way to the British Virgin Islands. It's exciting to see all that MARE has done. But you're right, Natasha, there's a lot more work to do. And, you know, first and foremost, on behalf of the board, I want to thank all of our donors. I really want to thank the donors who have continued to support MARE, or who perhaps contributed a product tonight for the silent auction. It's just wonderful. And as you mentioned, we couldn't do this work without everybody's help. And then I want to talk about the future and what the donations really help us do moving forward. You know, we've got some things we'd like to do. We want to develop a marine protected area virtual map, you know, use some of our footage to really put together some maps and as a prototype of just everything, the fauna, the flora, etc. You know, we want to develop an MPA film and showcase the videos that we've had from over 19 years of taking this video footage. And in fact, next year at our 20th anniversary, everybody's got to come back because that's going to be exciting. And then certainly we want to support the Costa Rica shark expedition, and we want to make sure we help with that. And again, get the equipment back that is needed in order to get the data put together. So I'm excited because I think I'm leading into the most exciting day here, Natasha. You know, I think we've got a live auction we're ready to do. And I just want to thank everyone in advance for the silent auction, the donations that are coming in. And now let's move into that live auction. I'll turn it back to you.
Wonderful. And Dirk, feel free to jump back in here. And John too, if you're still there. Again, thank you to everyone for your support. We are very excited in celebrating our 19th year to do a live auction of a unique opportunity on MARE's new research vessel. So we are going to open up the live auction now. You should be able to find this item in the GiveSmart item section on the left there. It is open for bidding. And Dirk, do you want to tell us just a little bit about the Tomcat for a minute as people navigate their way through the live auction?
Yeah, sure. This was a very generous donation from a fellow named Tom, who has been supporting MARE for years. And he gave us his 38-foot long, 13-foot wide catamaran, which we've been using as a workboat in San Francisco Bay, and we also use it down in Monterey Bay. It's a very, very stable boat because it's a catamaran, and it can also get up and move at 25 knots if we need it to. And it turns out it's a great platform for our batfish towed system and also our Stingray remotely operated vehicle. And so what we'd like to do is have some folks join us and do kind of a sunset cruise around the bay. We'll get off at one point, have hors d'oeuvres and wine. I won't be drinking because I'm still an emerging captain. I'm not like Chris Jordan, the waterman from South Africa who's lived in British Virgin Islands for 25 years. But we'd love to have you join us. And we'll probably, you know, weather permitting, just go out and peek beyond the Golden Gate Bridge and then come back in along the San Francisco waterfront around Alcatraz, which was our prison for many, many years, and then Angel Island, and then back to its home port. So you will have myself and a couple of staff, MARE staff on the boat with you. We're captive. You can ask us anything you want. And we're happy to share the types of work we're doing, not just in San Francisco Bay, up in the Delta, but also in places afar, because we have some projects coming up this next month in the Gulf of Mexico and in the Gulf Stream off Florida that we're quite excited about.
Thank you, Dirk. So while people are looking at the live bid and hopefully placing their bids, it looks like we had a first bid of 500 and now we are up to 600. Thank you very much. Dirk, can you tell us a little bit about some of the work that we are doing on the Tomcat here in the Bay with partnering with the San Francisco Estuary Institute and how we're using this platform to do some more research here in the Bay, in San Francisco Bay?
Sure, it's water quality work. And for those of you who know California history, we did a lot of hydraulic mining up in the Sierras in the mid 1800s. We used a lot of mercury and arsenic and other pretty toxic chemicals as we washed down sides of mountains to extract gold. And a lot of that, in fact, probably all of it, mostly ended up in the Bay along with PCBs. So I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area, and we never had bay dolphins. We were told not to eat anything that came out of the bay. And as a result of continued monitoring, getting rid of PCBs, no more hydraulic mining, the bay has gotten quite a bit healthier. And so what the San Francisco Estuary Institute does is they take all sorts of water and an invasive clam sample up and down the delta, which feeds into the bay, to determine levels of arsenic and selenium and some other toxins that we're monitoring over time. And the good news is things are looking better. But it turns out it's a wonderful platform for them to do their work, rain or shine, as they collect. We dredge along the bottom for these invasive clams and also grab water samples and do depth measurements and so forth. And then we hope to be doing even more with San Francisco State's Marine Lab. They do a lot of work in San Francisco Bay and other groups between here and just south of Monterey. So lots of ideas, and we're excited.
Great. So we've got about 5 more minutes left in our live auction of this Sunset Cruise on the Tomcat. I hope you guys will consider donating. There's different ways to donate today. We're doing our live auction now, which will close in about 4 minutes. We still have our silent auction going on, and that will close at 7 p.m. Pacific time. So an hour after this event ends, we're going to give you guys an hour to get your final bids in for all of those unique silent auction opportunities. And then you can just plain old donate. Greta, if you can pull up that the donate level slide. We have a number of different levels that you can participate. Every dollar counts to help MARE do this work. And we hope you will contribute. If you don't get that silent auction item that you were bidding on, please consider continuing to support MARE by donating. We have these are our 4 vehicles that we use, our underwater tools. This is our fleet, and your support supports these tools to collect really critical information. We are still at the 600 level for the Tomcat Sunset Cruise. I know we had one of our emeritus board members who I think couldn't make it and wanted to also donate at the $750 level. So I am going to kind of throw that in right now verbally. And we will record that. So we have a few more minutes. John and Kelly, anything else that you want to add?
I'll just jump in, and I just want to say again, thanks to everyone in advance for all of their donations. These donation levels, you can see all the different equipment that we use and the different depths that we use it for. And I think that it's exciting to see what your money actually goes for and how it's used. And you've already seen the impact it has, right? And you've seen the work that MARE has done. And again, there's a lot more to come in the future. So I just want to encourage everybody. Again, it's so appreciated by the board. It's so appreciated by the other organizations that we work with. And as we all work together, I know we can keep our oceans healthy. So I don't know, John, if there's a couple closing comments you want to add as well.
No pressure, no pressure. No, just want to reiterate a huge thank you to everyone who participated today, who joined, who's been able to donate or bid on the auction items or donate auction items themselves. I know MARE really appreciates support. In many cases, people who have been longtime supporters as well as new supporters. It makes a huge difference for the organization. And it's also great to know that your support is leveraged, right? Like it really goes a long way to help MARE go out and win projects with various agencies that we work with, right? Like this is the kind of fuel that we really need to keep the organization moving forward. So a huge thanks to everyone, and especially to the folks who organized this event. Natasha, Kelly, and others who really helped make this happen.
Thank you, John. I think we are just at 6 o'clock and we just got our last live auction bid for $770 from Natasha Bell. And I'm gonna give it like 30 more seconds to see if anyone else comes in. But if not, Natasha is our winner, the other Natasha. And I just want to thank everyone. We couldn't have done this without all of our sponsors and donors. We have one last slide, I believe, Greta, with all of our sponsors. Thank you to the board and especially to Abby and Greta, who I couldn't have done this without, and all of these donations, which raised quite a bit of money towards our goal. We will still be accepting donations for the next few days to try to reach our goal, and we hope you guys will continue to support. And I think that's a wrap, unless Dirk has any final words.
No, I had a lot of fun. I hope everybody else did too. And let's close it down.
Okay,
All right.
thank you. Good night.
Congratulations. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.